Hello everyone. Today I will read it. Oh, today I will make a video about point PF. Still same PF here. Point view read it chapter novel. So I will read it and I will give some statement about what I get it. But for the movie POV reaction for the right now the concept video PF point view read it chapter novel not reaction read it because I read right. So it's part from the truth about woman, especially chapter 7. The title chapter is Woman Position in the Great Civilization of Antiquity. But many point in here or many part. So I just read part 1 in Egypt. Ooh, it's the classic, right? So let's read it first and I will try to make memorize because I really want to make a long statement or long view point of view because the chapter the part of the title in Egypt so many as long 30 pages. No, 22 pages. So really long, right? So yeah, let's see. And I hope you were happy when you see my face and listening my voices, even I know my languages is not good. Meanwhile, when I see in the future of myself, I can evaluate what the progress I did. Ooh. So let's read it. If we consider the status of the woman in the great empire of antiquity, we find of the whole that in their early stage, the state of the growth, as well as in their final state, the state of fruition, women tend to occupy a favorable position, while in their middle stage, usually stage of predominating military organization on a particle basis. Women usually occupy a less favorable position. The cyclic movement seems to be almost a natural law of development of great social group. It's a quote from Havelock Alice. The civilization through which I am now going to follow the history of women, insofar as they offer any special feature of interest to our inquiry into the woman character and her true place in the social order, belong to the great civilization of the ancient world, civilization moreover that have deeply influenced human culture, and from the second part of our historical investigation. There can be no doubt of this interest to us, for if we can prove that women have exercised unquestioned and direct authority in the family and in the state, not only among primitive people but in stable civilization of vital culture, we should be in a position to answer Jews who wish to set limit to women's present activity. It it is necessary to enter into this inquiry with caution. The difficulties before me are very great again. It is not in any scarcity of evidence, but in its superabundance that the trouble rests in It is hard to condense the social habit of people into few dozen pages. Nothing would be easier than from the mass of the material available to peel up fact in furnishing a picture of the highest status of woman that will unnerve any holders of female subordination. It is just possible, on the other hand, to interpret this fact from the fixed point of touch, and that to argue that, in spite of her power, woman was still regarded as the inferior of man. I wish to do neither. It is my purpose to outline the domestic relationship and the family law and custom as they existed in Egypt, in Babylon, in Greece, and in the Rome, to touch the figure of social life only in social far as they illustrate this, and so discover to what extent the mother was still regarded as the natural transmitter of property and head to the household. The subject is an immensely complicated and seductive one, so that I must keep strictly to the path set by this inquiry. Let us turn first to Egypt. We have so rich a collection of the remains of the ancient Egyptian civilization, and so careful and industrious a scholarship has been given to interpret them, that we can with confidence reconstruct in outline the legal status and property right enjoyed by women, which is give them a position more free and more honor than they have in any country of the world today. This is not an overestimate the fact. The security of her property right made the Egypt woman the legal head of the household. She inherited equally with her brother and had full control of her own property. She was juridically the equal of man, having the same right with the same freedom of action and being honored in the same way. The position of woman in Egypt is indeed full of surprise to the modern believer in woman's subjection. Herodotus, who was keen observer, was the first to record his astonishment. He writes, they have established law and custom opposite for the most part to those of the rest of mankind. With them the woman go to the market and traffic. Go away, bad things. The men stay at the home and weave. The men carry burden on their head, the woman on their shoulder. The boys are never forced and to maintain their parent, unless they wish to do so. The girls are obligated to, even if they do not wish it. There is probably some exaggeration in this account, but it is certain that the wide activity of the free Egyptian women were never confined to the home. An important part was taken by her in industrial of commercial life. In these relations and in the social intercourse, it is allowed on all hands women's position was remarkably free. The record of the monument show her to have been as actively concerned in all the affairs of her day, were alone accepted as her father, her husband, or her son. No restraint was placed even her action. She appeared eating and also drinking freely, and taking her part in equal enjoyment with men in social scheme and religious ceremonies. She was able to enter into commerce in her own right and to make contract for her own benefit. Go away! She could bring action and even plead in the court. She practiced in the art medicine. As a priestess, she had authority in the temples. Frequently, as a queen, she was the highest in the land. And the greatest monarch of Egypt was hot scripts BC 1550, the mighty one, conqueror of all lands, queen her own right by the will of her father Thutmose. 1. The material in the proof as the high status of Egypt woman is abundant. It consists partly of the description of Greek travel, partly of the numerous go away interesting marriage contract, and partly of inspiration and passages in the writing of the morality, all of which testify to beautiful and healthy family relationship and usual honor in which women were held, which are further illustrated by incident in the ancient story of this marriage contract are the most important for our purpose. The fullest information released to the latest period of independent Egypt, history when the position of women stood highest. But some the contract respect to the time of King Bacchus, and there are a few of an even earlier date. I wish that I had space to quote some this marriage contract in the full. They are very instructive and open up many paths of new suggestion. Would commend their study to all those who are questioning the institution of marriage. It is stand today on the right of patriarchal family system by which the woman is considered the inferior and submit herself and is subordinate to the man as the ruler of the family. The issue really rests, and it's one is the mother and the father to be regard as the natural transmitter of property and head of the family. Our decision here will affect our outlook on the entire relations of the sexes. The Egyptian decided on the right of the mother. The marriage contract seems to have been entirely in the favor of woman. There was no sale the bride by her parent, but the bride price weighing to her own property also remained in her own charge and was at her own disposal. The husband stipulated in the contract how much he will give as a yearly allowance for her support, and the entire property of the husband is pledged as security or this payment. Which the wife is further protected by dowry or charge on the husband to be paid to her in the event of his sending her away. It will readily be seen how advantageous this proprietary right must have been to the wife. She was able to claim either the fealty of her husband or freedom or herself to leave him, and in some cases for both together, her property being secure to her and her children in some contract by which with the husband gives his wife on third of all his property, present income. He values the movable she brought with her and promises her with the equivalent in silver if thou stayest with them. If thou goes away with them. The importance of this right of free separation to women can hardly be overestimated. Yet so, says the wife, has absolutely nothing to lose, even when she the guilty party. Some of the marriage contracts are even more favorable to women. In this, the husband literally endorses his wife with all his worldly goods, stipulating only that she is to maintain him while living and provide for his burial when dead. Empaters distinguish two forms of marriage settlement, on which secure to the wife an annual pension of specific amount, usually one third of the property of the husband, and the other, probably the older custom, which established a complete community of goods. The early contracts are much less detailed, due probably to the fact that the position of the established wife was then fixed by custom, but there seems no doubt that the equal lawful wife, she was proper title, is a lady of the house, was also joint, ruler and mistage of the family heritage. There is a very curious early construct of the time of Darius, one in which the usual stipulation of later contract are reversed, the wife speaking of the man being established as her husband, acknowledging the receipt of sum of money as dowry, and undertaking that if she desired of dispose of him, a third part of all God, present and to come, should be forfeited to him. The high honor, freedom, and further right enjoyed by the Egyptian wife can only be explained as a being traceable to an early period of mother right. Here, the ancient privilege of women have persisted not as empathy form, but would seem have been adopted because of their advantage in the family relations and be incorporated with the father right. This is will account for the last name contract. It is a very ancient that seems clearly to point to this. Is it is unlikely that if it were an exceptional form, it should have a chance to be one of the very few early contracts that have been preserved. It would rather seems that property was originally entirely in the hands of women, as is usual under the matriarchal system. The Egyptian marriage law was simply a development of this, enforcing by agreement that what would occur naturally under the early custom. The interest of the children inheritance was the chief object of the settlement of property of the wife. The early stage daughter inheriting property from her parent would marry the husband, would then become its a joint administrator, but not its owner. It would pass by custom, and the children with the eldest as administrator, but the wife dismissed the husband as under the system she could, and often that she would of right retain the family property in the control for the children. As society advanced, this is older custom would tend to break up in favor of individual ownership. Property would come to belong to the husband and father, and would then be necessary to ensure the position of the wife and children by contract. The aging married may just be regarded as the development of the individual relationship arising from the father right, modified modified to conform with the mother right custom of transmitting property. Through the woman, under early system, the inheritance of the husband would pass to the children of his sister and not to his own children. The contract was therefore made to prevent this. This husband property was passed over to wife at the first entirely and later in a part to secure its inheritance by the children of the married. Hence the formula common to this contract by which the husband declared to the wife, the eldest sons, thy eldest sons should be there to all by property present and to come. The only difference to the early custom was the prominence given the eldest child, a son, in the contract. This gift by the husband of his property to the wife, which made her joint partner with him all the family transaction, while at the same time they retained complete control over her own property, clearly placed the woman and her children in the same position of security as he had held during the mother age, and added to his chain the individual protection and support of the father in the family relationship. Doubles it was this freedom and right over property, which is explained the frequent cases in which the aged woman conducted business transaction and also their active participation in the administration of the social organization, equal partner with their husband in the administration of the home. They become partner with men the wider administration of the stage. It was such was way the Egyptians around the difficult problem of the fusion of the mother right with the father right. One result of this marriage contract giving a broadly great power to the wife arose out the mortgage on the husband's property as security for the wife's settlement. Her consent became necessary to all his aid. Just it is usual for the husband's deed to be endorsed by the wife, while he did not endorse hers. In some cases, the wife's consent seems to have been necessary even in the case of the initial mortgage, when the only possible explanation is that the wife was regarded as co-proprietor with the husband and therefore had to be party in any disposing of the joint estate. Such a custom was apparently so wholly in favor of the wife, reversing the customary position of the man and the woman in the marriage partnership. Then in the light of this contract, we understand the statement of Diodorus when he said that among the Egyptian the woman rules over the man, though plainly he has not understood their true significance when he goes on to state that it is stipulated between married couples by and term of the dowry contract that the man shall owe the woman. If the view is accepted, as I think it must be, that this contract were made it to add the advantage of father right to natural privilege of mother right, and choose to secure the enjoyment of the family property to all its members, it will become evident that, however surprisingly, wait, such as an agreement might seem from the one side patriarchal view, which is always accept the subjection of the woman. It was entirely a wise and just arrangement. It was certainly one that was entered into voluntarily by both partners of the marriage. There was no compulsion of law. All the evidence that has come down to us is a witness to the success in practice of this marriage contract. No other nation has yet developed a family relationship so perfect is working as the Egyptian. The reason is not far to seek. It was based on the equal freedom and responsibility of the mother with the father. There was no question, it seems to me, of one sex ruling or obeying the other. Rather, it was the cooperation of the two for the welfare of both and both the children. So far, we have dealt only with the possession of the established wife. All the written marriage contract revert to the taking and establishing a wife as a two distinct steps. And in some cases, the second stage, which seems to have conveyed the property right, was not taken until after the birth of children. They would choose be wife, not necessarily holding the position of lady of those, but capable of being raised to such rank bilateral contracts. This is probable as Mr. Rayford suggests that the taking to wife was a completely informal matter but needing ratification by contract for any lasting establishment, which is commonly would be done after the birth of child and sire, the right of the father inheritance passing through the mother to the children. All the evidence is in a favor of this wise arrangement. There are many examples of contract being entered into by the husband for the benefit of woman who had been with him as a wife to him. Relationship between the sexes of even less binding character than these were not ignored. It seems clear that little regret was paid to prenuptial chastity for women, and no marriage contract is any stress laid on virginity, which is has Havelock Ellis said. He clearly indicate the absence of any idea of woman property. It is the glory of Egyptian morality to have been seems first to express the dignity of woman. M. Patra takes the view that it was not so much as the mother, but as a woman and being the equal of man that the Egyptian honor their woman. Perhaps the truth rather is that there was no separation between the woman and the mother. This is the view that I would take to me. It is the right and natural one. But this as it my Egyptian morality places first the right of the mother, no religious or moral superiority seems to have attacked to the established wife even when there had been no betrothal and no intention of marriage. Law or custom recognizes the claim of any mother of children to some kind of profession at their father explains nothing proves the high status of women so cruelly as this. Her child was never illegitimate. Illegitimacy was not recognized even in the case of slave woman child. This curious death of the Ptolemaic period by which a man cedes to a woman a number of slaves, and in the same bit recognizes her as his lawful wife and declare her free not to consider him as her husband. A business worker at the factory of Ammon promises to the wife he is about to establish on third of all his acquisition then Cheverward. My eldest sons, the eldest sons among the children born, T previously, and choose to short bear to me in the future, shall be master of all I possess now, or shall hereafter acquire, even when such as arrangement were not entire into the falterly public opinion, seems always to have been in the favor of the woman. A case is recorded where four villagers of the town of Asinio pledged themselves to the priest, scribe, and mayor, and the fellow villager of the church will become the friends, the woman, and also be his wife, and will love her as a woman ought to be loved. Most significant of all is the well-known precept of Ptahhotep, which refers to expect conduct of men to prostitute or case. If Joe makes a woman Sam Wenton of her, whom her fellow town people know to be under two laws, in ambiguous position, be kind to her for a season, send her not away, let her have food to eat, the wantonness of her heart appreciated guidance. I know of nothing finer than this. Quite understand of the ties of sex. It is essential part of morality. As I understand it, that is accept responsibility not alone in regular and permanent relationship between one man and one woman, but also in those that are temporary and are even considered base. Only his way can the human position be unfied with love. The freedom of the Egyptian marriage made this possible. Law, at least as we understand it, did not interfere with the domestic relationship. There was no one fixed rule that must be followed. Marriage was a matter of mutual agreement by contract. All that required and this was enforced by custom and public opinion, was that the position of the woman and the children was the made secure. Each party entered on the marriage without any constraint, and each party could cancel the contract and thereby the marriage. No legal judgment was required for divorce. It is significant fact that in all documents and excelling the marriage contract that have come down to us, no mention is made of the reason which led to the annulling the contract. Only cases it suggested that some evil demon may be at the bottom of it. Really thirsty. Polygamy was allowed in Egypt, though as in all polygamous countries. Its practice was convenient to the rich. This has been taught by the some excluded the idea the woman power in the family, but such as opinion seems to me to rise from a want of understanding of the Egyptian conception of the sexual tie. Under the polygamy, each wife had a house, her prosperity right, and choose of her children were established, the husband visiting her there as a privileged guest on the equal footing. This is a very different from polygamy in patriarchal society and would carry with no social dishonor to the woman. It would seem to in later Egyptian history that polygamy, through the legal in the theory in the practice died out. The fidelity on the husband, as we have since been claimed by the wife in the condition and the marriage contract. Oh my god, it's really many mosquito. It is in it significance to find this reversal of the usual sentiment toward the father and the mother, the former to be loved and the latter to be reverenced. It will seem as if they assume that a father would be sufficiently reverenced if they were loved, and the mother loved if they were honored. How true here is understanding of affection and of the sexes. If we pause for a moment to seek the reason why the Egyptian had this Herodotus so strictly staged, established in their domestic relationship, law and custom different from the rest of mankind, the answer is easy to find. The Egyptians were an agricultural and conservative people. They were also a pacific race. They would seem not to have believed in that illusion of younger races, the glory of warfare. I have seen stated that in the battle they were known for the habit of running away. This is my of the course we thought to count against them as a people. It depends entirely on the point of view that is taken. But if, as I believe, the fighting activity belonged to an early and truly primitive stage of social development, then the view would be very different. Races begin with the building up of society. Then there followed the period of warfare, the patriarchal period, which is late on the later state. Much nearer in this working to the first or final period, as Havelock Ellis says, the state of friction, woman plays an opportunity for the true expression of the power that our heroes belong to the first and the last of this stage. In the middle stage, she must tend to fall into a position of more or less complete depend on the fighting male. Here's, I think, the explanation of the power of privilege of the Egyptian woman. The Egyptian, due to their specific and conservative temperament, seems to have escaped the patriarchal state and passed on from the first to final stage. Through the long century of their civilization, they devote their energy to the building up and preserving of their social organization. Just it may be came about the solving of the problem of the sexes, which is the among all races seems to have accomplished it. The relationship of their family life and domestic administration were entirely civilized and human. Now, where, except in Egypt, is also much stress laid even the truth that authority is sustained by affection, their amendment and inspiration that have come down to us abundantly testify the values that even affection. It is always the love of the husband for the wife for the husband, or the parent for the child that is recorded. The frequency and detail with which such as affection are described prove the highest estimation in which the purely domestic virtue were held as affirming the past and the chief title of the dead to remembrance and honor. It's a clear moreover that this affectionate relationship between the member of family are counted among the pleasure and joy life. The inscription "Are you?" and warn the survivor to miss none of the joy of life. Since the disappointed that sleep in the darkness, and this is the worst of their grief, they know either father nor mother. They do not awake to behold their brethren. They hurt yearn no longer after wife and child. There is delightful inscription on the sepulchral tablet of the wife of a high priest of Memphis, in which she argued the duty of heaven is for her husband. It says, "Hail, my brother, husband, friend, let not thy heart choose to drink water, to eat the bread, to drink wine, to love woman, to make happy day, and to sweet thy heart desire by day and by night. And set no care whatsoever in thy heart are the years which we pass, you born, the earth so many that we needed to this, such as a conception with its clear idea of the right of happiness stand as witness to the high ideal of love, which is regulate the Egyptian family relationship. It is necessary to remember in this connection that the domestic ties of the Egyptian were firmly based on property consideration. No surprise it need be felt that this was so when we recall the wise arrangement of this marriage contract whereby both parties of the union secure equal freedom and an equal share in the family property. The antagonism between ownership and affection, which is so frequently destroy domestic happiness, must just have been unknown. There was no marriage without money or money worth, but to marry for money. Indeed, modern sense was impossible where individual ownership was abolished by the act of marriage itself. This is a self-explanatory fact proved by this inscription that the Egyptian woman remained to the end of the life, the love of her husband and the misery of the host. Might let her heart during the time and that you has was the traditional advice given to the husband to this effect round the precept without hollow. If thou wilt be a wise man, rule the house and love the wife, wholly and constantly feed her and clothe her, love her tenderly and fulfill it. desire as long as to life for. She is an estate which is conferred, great reward even her Lord. Be not hard to her, for she will be more easily moved by persuasion than by force. Observe what she wishes, and that on which is her mind runneth the right solo. Make her to stay in thy house. If thou resist her will, it is ruin. The maxim of any written 6 dynastic letter give the same advices with the fuller detail. Do not treat roughly a woman in her houses when you know her perfectly. Do not say to her, "Where's that? Bring it to me." When she has sit in this place where you are, see it, and when you are silent, you know her qualities. It is joy, and your hands should be with her. The man who is upon of her is quickly master in this house. Honor to the master was strongly insisted on. The said Christian Hathach. Choose console his son. Thou shalt never forget thy mother and what she has done for thee. From the beginning she has borne a heavy burden with thee in the witches have been unable to help her. Were thou to forget her, then she might blame thee, lifting up her arm unto God, and he would hearken to her, for she carried the law beneath her as a heavy burden, and after the months were accomplished, she bore thee. 3 long years she carried thee, even her shoulder gave thee her breast to Timon, and so the size increased. Her heart never once allowed her to say, "Why should I do this?" And when thou didst go to the school and was instructed in the writing, daily stood by the master with bread and beer from the house. I would not in passing that in this passage we have conclusive testimony to health and character of the Egyptian mother, the importance of this undoubted when we remember the active part taken by women in business and in social life. It is, I am sure, an entirely mistaken view to hold that motherhood is a cause of weakness to women. In a wisely ordered society, this is not so. This is the withdrawal of one class of women from labor to the parasitic wives and the daughter of the rich, which is of this woman could fit carry on her child for 3 years, as the forcing of the other woman into the work under intolerable condition. Is that injure motherhood? But on this question, I should speak in the final part of my inquiry when I had read just for in this chapter. I went from the reading from the British Museum, where all day had been working, to spend last quiet hour in the Egyptian gallery. I knew one, at the least, of this gallery well, but as the rule, I had hurried through it, as so many of the reading room students do, to visit the refreshment room, which is placed there. I found I had never really seen anything. This time it was different, for my thoughts were aflame with the life of these people, whose wonderful civilization speak on the sculptor remains through the silence of the century. Some fresh thoughts came to me as I wait to look at the first one statue and another. I sought for the which represent woman. This is a small statue in the green basalt of Isis holding a figure of Osiris and River, her sons. The goddess is represented as much larger than the young god who stand at her feet. The merit of Isis with her brother Osiris did not blot out her independent position. Her importance as a deity remained to the end greater than his. Think for a moment. There's a placing of the goddess rather than the gods in the forefront of Egyptian worship signifies. Very clearly, it reflects the honor in which the sex of whom the supreme deity belonged was held in the third Aegean room in seated statue of the Queen Tetakar, a wife of Ahams, 100 1900 BC, whose title was Royal Mother, and another figure of Queen Amartys of the 25 dynasty, 700 BC. Nearby is a beautiful head of the stone figure of Priceless. There's something enigmatic and strangely seductive in Egypt faces, a joy and calmness which are implicit in freedom. And the impression is helped by the fixed attitude usually seated and always fasting the spectre, and also the great size. So many the figure on seems to release something of the simplicity and strength, the tireless enduring power this woman and man. But I think what interested me most of all the little difference manifested in the representation of two sexes, the dress which is we each were in a very much the same, the attitude are alike, and so often are the faces even in the figure there seems no accentuation of the sexual character. Often I did not whether it was at a man or a woman, a god or a goddess. I was looking until the title of the statue told me how strange this seems to me, and yet how significant of beautiful equality of partnership between the woman and the man. It is in the statue which is represent a husband and wife together, stated side by side. That is likeness is a more evident. There are several of this domestic group. One very interesting on in Charlie's death and belong to 5 dynasty 3750 BC. It is painted limestone and show the portrait figure of Khatib, a royal kinsman, a priestly official, and his wife Hattab Harris, a royal kinswoman. The figures are small and the same size. The faces are clearly portrayed. The one which is I take it to be the woman, though I am uncertain whether I am right, has her arm around the man, embracing him. There another, then another, wait, group in white limestone, a very fine rock portrait of high official and his wife. The figures resemble each other closely, but that of the man is a little larger, knowing his ring. The man holds the hand of the woman. This statue belongs the 20 no, no 90 dynasty. On the right hand side of the north gallery is second group of an early period. The husband and the wife are seated and the figures are the same size, showing that their ring was equal. Their arms are intertwined, and between them, standing and their feet in a small figure of their son. It was before this family group I waited longest. It has pleased me by this completeness and it is sincerity. Once more, I should have had difficulty in identifying which is figure was the father and which is the mother, but the men were a small bird. In all this statue group, there's this great resemble between the sexes, were the sexes then really alike Egypt? I didn't know such a conception opened up biological consideration of the deepest significance. It is so difficult to be certain here is the great boundary line which is divided the two halves of life, with the intimate woman problem that even human aid to remain forever fixed. Insects are always to be faced with irresolvable tangle of disharmonies again. I didn't know. Yet looking at the seated figure of the Egyptian husband and wife, I feel that the answer might be with them. Do they not seem to have solved that secret, which is we are so painful in our search of? The statue just took on a kind of symbolic character, which erroneously spoke of union of the woman and the man, that the freedom had broken down the boundaries of the sex, and therefore of life, that was harmony with love and joy. And the beautiful word, the Egyptian song, the harper came to my memory, and now I understood that. Make thy glad. Let there be perfume and sweet odor for thy nostril, and let there be flower and lilies for thy beloved sister, who shall be seated by the side. Let there be songs and music of the harp before thee, the sitting behind the back, unpleasant things of every kind remember, only gladness, until the day cometh where thou must travel, and the land which is love silent. That's it. That's all the chapter, and because I'm not give point of view for action, I'm just read it, but I'm try to translate the song's lyric Egypt and the last part as a conclusion. Buatlah harimu gembira, biarlah ada parfum dan wangian yang harum untuk hidungmu, dan biarlah ada bunga dan lili untuk saudari tercintamu, yaitu istrimu yang akan duduk di sampingmu. Biarlah ada nyanyian dan musik harfa di hadapanmu, dan singkirkanlah hal-hal yang tidak menyenangkan dari segala jenis. Ingatlah hanya kegembiraan sampai tiba hari di mana kau harus pergi ke negeri yang mencintai keheningan. So it's like conclusion. We can know in Egypt culture, the wife, the woman has the place like more higher in husband really honor for the wife, and the wife must serve herself to give more love to the husband. So yeah, in the end, the love is effort with two people, but the wife more behind her because the husband treat like that. So that's it. I'm not giving reaction or view. I'm just gives what is this point of view, the bold point of view based the quote. And yeah, see you in the next video, or maybe in the next chapter PVR point view read chapter novel. Bye bye. Yay!